My guest today is Kratofil, one of Midwest's most influential deal makers at the intersection of law, technology, and investment. Craig is the Kansas City co-office managing partner at Polsinelli, one of the largest and fastest growing full service law firms in the country. He is also the chair of their technology, transactions, and data privacy practice and has guided companies through mergers, acquisitions, and venture financing from early stage startups to Fortune 500 giants. He's helped structure deals that fuel innovation, advised on transformative projects like Google Fiverr's launch in Kansas City, and continues to shape how entrepreneurs attract capital while navigating complex issues like AI, data privacy, and cybersecurity. Today, we'll dig into how companies can prepare for investment, the impact AI is having in technology startups and M&A, and why building trust is the foundation of any great deal. Craig, it is a special privilege to have you on. We have known each other for a long time. Excited to have you on as our guest and for everybody to learn from your knowledge over the years and kind of navigate some of these complex deals.
It is my pleasure to be here. We have known each other for a long time. I had something pop up the other day where, I mean, it was probably 20 years ago at an event or something that I remember we were at. Thank you for having me. I always kind of say I have a face for radio for sure. So you're putting that to test with this with the podcast. But it's my pleasure to be here and to talk with you.
Thank you, Greg. Well, I think it just to lay some groundwork, if we look at your career and this journey into technology and law and early stage companies and just structuring companies for capital, I feel like, especially now, that's still such a coveted area of business. So many businesses need to be structured correctly to attract investments. And this is your niche. This is what you really drive the deals. Can you kind of speak to how you got to this point in your career? And then, just even like some of the big catalysts for change over the years.
I mean, I've been doing it 27 years, so I've been here at Polsinelli 27 years, started in '98 at the firm. So if you remember, for you probably weren't old enough, but I was old enough to, it was, dot-com boom, exciting time to be doing things. But technology as a legal wasn't really there. I mean, you'd approach technology from two different ways. You'd either have an intellectual property attorney who understood the technology but didn't understand contracts, drafting, and a lot of the kind of more corporate stuff, or you'd have a corporate lawyer who understood how to do contract work and that, but didn't understand the technology. And so, technology law itself, 27 years ago, was really trying to take some folks that would kind of blend both an understanding of what technology was and what was happening and what was going on with good corporate principles, good contracting principles, and things, and putting those things kind of together. And so, I think the two greatest things that ever happened to me from a career perspective was one, coming to Polsinelli, but two was just getting into technology law, because talk about an area that just continues to evolve and reinvent itself, from the internet to mobile to blockchain to AI now. I mean, it's just it's never never without the next kind of greatest thing, or the next thing that's kind of really moving and moving our entire world.
Fast forward to now, it's all this AI and it, as you said, tech never stops. That's the beauty of it. Like everybody's always learning, they're changing, they're all navigating, but it does shake up the legal side of things. Like how do you
Yes.
see yeah, how do you
And it really has. I mean, having been around long enough, what you realize is that it's a little bit about the sliver of time that you look at things. And so you could say the same thing about kind of where we are with AI, that we saw a little bit about mobile, and that we saw even really with the internet. If you compress that time that you're looking at, you could say, well, I could see how it may affect things. I could see how it will, but I'm not going to, I don't see how it's going to change or dramatically change the industry or area. And when I look at those other two, both, you know, well, the internet itself. I mean, when I clerked here, we nobody had a computer on their desktop. I came back the next summer. there's 5 computers hooked into the internet up in the library, and then I come back to start, everybody's got a desktop on their desk and stuff, and then we're off and running, and, same with mobile. I mean, when mobile phones, started coming out, people were that way. I'm not gonna let that change me. I'm not gonna be available 24/7. I'm gonna keep doing it. But when you look at it in slices like that, you can see it, but once you look at it with a wider view, you can see how it completely changed and evolved how we do business. AI is at that same place right now. I mean, it's still early. I mean, it's certainly a lot different than it was 2 years ago, but there are still a number of people who haven't embraced it, not sure how to embrace it, and, are curious or wondering, is it really going to change how we practice or is it really going to change things? And then I think as you widen out your view and start looking over large period of times, we are definitely seeing it, have an impact. I mean, we're rolling out, we're in the process right now of doing a enterprise chat GPT rollout with the firm. The firm does OpenAI's patent work. And so, I mean, we've got a very good relationship with them, but Co-Counsel and Jigsaw, we've got a number of different AI tools that we've been rolling out and using internally, but it's still an early time and period with which we're seeing engagement on that. It's fun.
That's very progressive for a law firm. Usually law firms are slower to adopt.
I would say, yeah, definitely,
That's really
definitely.
incredible. Yeah. Well, let's kind of pivot and talk a little bit about M&A. You know for sure that you have seen all types of companies, big and small, and some try to sell and maybe sell successfully. I think a lot of business owners always plan or try to plan their exit, or they are forced to sell at some point because of retirement or whatever. But for a lot of companies, it's about attracting capital and growing. And a lot of companies do need a great deal of capital to scale, either because of overhead costs or just because of the nature of their business. Like, can you kind of give us the inside scoop on what do you look for in a business? Maybe take a scenario and walk us through a company that is trying to grow, trying to scale. Like, what makes them attractive? What do they need to do? What steps do they need to have in place to set themselves up for that kind of success?
Yeah, I mean, the best time to do something is 2 years ago, right? I mean, and that's always the challenge, but no, I think, over the years that I've seen, that some that are kind of maybe successful despite themselves, but that is often not the norm, right? I mean, the ones that have been, like, consistently successful or you've seen serial success out of them really do kind of follow a little bit of a model both in just, how they set themselves up at the beginning, the planning and things that they do at the very, very beginning that makes it easier for an exit transaction. For example, I mean, when we set up a new company right out of the very beginning at the absolute start, we'll set up a virtual data room for them. We'll load in a due diligence checklist for an exit transaction or investment transaction and have those startups at the very beginning, load that information in and keep track of that so that we're not in the context of an M&A deal or something later on down the road, diving in file cabinets and trying to find things and where are stuff and I don't know, and I think it one that adds stress to the founder, the entrepreneur, and as they're working through that deal because in addition to running the business, which was already taking 110% of their time, they're now into this M&A transaction or investment transaction, and that's taking up a lot of time. And then I also think it just has impact on value and what, when a purchaser or an investor comes in and sees if you're organized and you've got everything where it needs to be right out of the gate, I think you can also see that turn into, real dollars too for them and from purchase price and in other ways as well. So I think, when we look at those early stage companies and ones that are looking at M&A, things like clean cap table we can talk about, but the ones that really start that are at the very beginning and start as soon as you can at the beginning, thinking about how to organize yourself for that M&A transaction, you're going to be glad you did when that comes, whether it's forced upon you or it's just part of your exit strategy. The more you can plan it ahead, the better you'll be.
So, for startups, it's almost like they need to start with the lawyer.
Yeah, I mean, it's It starts with the idea, right? It starts with the innovation. I could set you up 100 companies today, and that you don't have 100 of anything, right? I mean, it's the what's the problem that we're solving? How are we going to solve it? The experience, the management team, all the different things that kind of go into it. The legal structure and that is a part of that, and it's important to get that done and to do that right. And it's always better and easier and cheaper to do that earlier, right? And so that, I mean, that, but if you haven't, or if you're now kind of like, gosh, we've been just operating, we're all going 90 miles a minute and we don't know exactly what we need to do. But at some point we see ourselves thinking we're going to do some kind of exit transaction. I was just talking with somebody yesterday about building into their flow the things that they can do over the course of the next 6 months to kind of catch themselves up on some of that so that they're in a ready position. So it's not a rush at the end, but it's also not an overwhelming list of things you have to do right now. AI will build you a perfect little calendar for that to help you kind of clean up the things that you need to clean up to get ready for when you need it.
Right now, is the market hot for mergers and acquisitions or raising our market's been a little up and down. So
Yeah.
what's that climate like right now for people?
It's certainly the last, say, 6 months, M&A has been slower. I mean, it's just a little bit of uncertainty in the marketplace around, tariffs. For a while, there have been taxes were an issue. Some of the things have been removed. Some of them are still kinda out there. I would say that feel like we're starting to see things open up and unlock a little bit. We're getting a little bit more certainty with things. There's a lot of capital on the sideline that needs to get deployed. But for a while, I'd say M&A was a little bit slower, but now it's starting to pick up. And early stage tech investing, there's always capital for good deals, but I'd certainly say these last 6 months, AI has been, kind of running the ship. I mean, there's just been a lot of variations of AI related startups that are either being able to raise funds. And I'm not just talking about the large
Right,
the large, like,
right.
billions of dollars on billions of dollars, but I'm just talking about even really seed stage and Series A stage capital going into different AI.
Oh, so that makes sense. I mean, that's the era that we're in right now. What are some of the pitfalls that you feel like, I mean, besides preparation, what are some of the pitfalls that you feel like companies get into when they're trying to an exit or an M&A or a situation like that?
Couple things that come to mind are their cap table, just making sure that they understand who owns what and how much of it and what those requirements and restrictions and things that they have on there. And so I always kind of say a clean cap table. A clean cap table doesn't need to necessarily mean there's nobody on the cap table, but where you understand that's kind of our first part is it's that Carta, it's that spreadsheet, it's the who's involved, what do they own, what are the rights and things that they have on that, and so those are pitfalls that you know, your developer has 10% undilutable interest forever. That's a real challenge to get, there. Or a second thing would be really around IP ownership, code ownership, any of the things that kind of make up the secret sauce a little bit. I mean, I've had instances where we've had to chase a developer down to, you know, backpacking through the middle of nowhere, Colorado, to try to get him to sign something because we needed that for part of the deal and it was too important for the
Yeah.
buyer to close on that. So IP ownership, a cap table, those are where I see a lot of kind of mistakes made kind of early on that.
So they just maybe get ahead of themselves and start striking deals, and it's not really fleshed out and organized.
Yeah, or they've promised somebody some equity or interest, but they never really documented any of it, and so or
Yeah,
they thought they bought somebody out, but they didn't really, and so we end
I
up with
see.
a twins problem. It just that issues around your ownership and who owns what is so important, and the same with intellectual property, which is so
Yeah. Well, and with AI is such a difficult thing to own. You can create stuff, right? But there's definitely some licensing and some ownership shifting and copyright and all this. With all these AI startups or companies that are raising money right now, Do they what's your advice? I mean, because it is such a new area. Is that something that you guys are watching or counseling on?
I mean, I think I last saw somebody said 20% of all patent filings right now are AI related. And so, I mean, there's a difference as of right now. It's still very early, right, from a Wild West a little bit, but different than when we were those kind of business software license, patents and stuff that was really, it didn't make a lot of sense and stuff. There's a lot of proprietary pieces inside some of this AI. Now, a lot of what we're seeing with folks is just using AI that exists today to apply it to existing problems and issues and stuff like that
Yes.
too, and less of opportunity to do protection around there. And then it's really more around the solution or system that you've created or built and the code and the ownership of that. Uh, and then obviously your brand. I mean, under the brand, I mean, the you know, just like any kind of system or solution, particularly one that's being offered to consumers, individuals are out there. The brand, the trademark, the pieces around that are in some extent as critical, if not as valuable as any of the other kind of secret sauce that may run behind the system too.
So, with the AI also comes additional cybersecurity threats. And I know cybersecurity is never going away. In fact, I think it keeps intensifying. Are you seeing any changes with cybersecurity and AI or just cybersecurity in general?
Yeah, well, cybersecurity is that's an area that we've been lucky to be involved with for a long, long time. I mean, in Kansas City, where I sit, has been the home of some incredible. Okay, hold on, I got to turn the light on. So Kansas City, where I sit, has been the home of some amazing information security companies, from Archer to Fishnet to Firemon to. There's just been a number of developments in that area, and so cybersecurity right now has data privacy and cybersecurity are just extremely important areas, and that we're seeing a lot of activity, a lot of development. And we do quite a bit of incident response work. Those incidents reach, ransomware, wire fraud, lost stolen laptop, you kind of name it. They probably come in 3 to 5 a day here right now, and so we've got a team that is just rapid response on helping and doing that. And we've got several incidents that are affecting whole industries right now, like the credit union industry, for example, that have breaches and things going. So I think to some extent we've gotten better as a community, if you will, people about, thinking about cybersecurity and training and phishing and all the different things that we do to try to counter that. At the same time, bad guys have gotten better too, and
Yep.
systems have gotten more. So it is constantly this kind of battle. And then we're seeing through that more regulation around it. So a lot more alphabet soups of GDPR, CCPA, HIPAA, all these different things that are out there now too that impose upon businesses obligations to do things. But I think
Yeah.
AI is making it, it's while allowing us to, do some things on the preventative side, and that it's also giving tools to the bad guys too.
Yeah.
Right now, I would say it's probably helping both sides in a way, and this incredibly increasing battle in cyber world. So for sure.
Yeah, it's never gonna totally go away. And do you have any thoughts on the AI operating on its own and deleting code or kind of going rogue? And what does that future look
Other
like
than
for?
I've seen that movie, 100 times, right? I mean, and I know how those movies end. They never end well, right? And for us and stuff too. But no, I think it presents a really interesting challenge as we look at using it, an agent, and using it in a way to automate some tasks and start. I think that's kind of where it started. Started allowing it to make some simple decisions to help automate things steps that we would otherwise do, or we can tell we know that this would be okay. And then as it continues to evolve and do that, I don't know. I mean, again, I try not to be afraid of what that looks like.
Yeah.
I trust that we've all seen those movies and we all know how those stories end, that we can at least be come in with eyes wide open and approach it in a way that'll be safe.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think There's actually some coders out there that are already writing code to combat rogue AI, but it's just, being able to anticipate what AI is going to do. And I think that's still the mystery. And you're right, you can't be afraid of it. You can only try to figure out the scenarios in which we can respond and have safety measures in place if that's even possible. But I think that's part of this unknown
It's
narrative.
absolutely part of the unknown development that we're going into, and we're gonna look
Yeah.
back 10 years from now and be, absolutely amazed at where we were and how we got there, no doubt about it.
Yes. Yes. I want to
I'll tell
talk.
you one of the challenges on AI that we're seeing a lot and dealing a lot with is, and we'll see if innovation addresses that. You mentioned Google Fiber in the intro, but I mean, data centers and data center development is absolutely probably one of the hottest things right alongside AI right now here, and particularly for the non-technical folks, the real estate, the environmental, the energy teams are seeing just a ton of activity that I never seen in that space. I think you and I had worked with some data center folks long, long time
Yeah.
ago, and
Yeah.
Carrier Hotel and others, and a lot of those early issues were less about energy and more about
Yeah.
fiber, accessibility. Now fiber is pretty ubiquitous. It's pretty much wherever we need it to be in that, but the big struggle today with AI and the computing power that we need right now for that is around the energy.
Yeah.
And so
It's
we're
kind of,
starting to see that.
it takes about two times or three times the energy. Is that right, Greg? The
Yeah, I
AI.
mean, it's mo
Yeah.
and the demand for it's great, and then the computing power that's needed to be able to handle it and to use it is substantial, and so there's a real push on.
Yeah. On resources and scaling those resources. Yeah. That's interesting call out. Speaking of Kansas City, you've done a lot of work in the Kansas City community to cultivate a tech hub and drive innovation. What are some of the hot topics right now in Kansas City that you want to speak to?
I love my hometown, and I think Kansas City has a lot to offer. We've got the World Cup coming in 2026. I think we're the smallest city for that. The It's a great place to live, great place to raise a family, and there's been a lot of activity and development over those years. Again, if you kinda look at where we are in just a tiny slice of time, you're like, "I don't know how much, additional new things are going," but when you look at it over a wider length, I mean, it used to be able to be at everything and still, that was going on in the community and still be home 3 days a week, and now there's something all the time, every day, a lot of excitement. The KC Tech Council, I know you were there around the beginning and formation of that, which has kind of, evolved into quite an organization here in Kansas City for what they do for the technology community, both on policy issues and workforce development. There's just a lot going on there. But then like Keystone, what Kevin McGinnis and that team's doing over there to help with social entrepreneurs and some other things. So their digital drive and their issues on helping address the gap and the digital divide and stuff here in the community. And too, there is a lot of activity and a lot of things kind of going on. Fintech, I think particularly, we're gonna has been an area where we've had a lot of great development and are going to continue to see it. Not just blockchain crypto related, but payment processing as well, kind of aspect of the fintech world too. And then obviously healthcare tech, the digital health stuff that we've seen. Cerner was a real catalyst for that development here. And then I mean, we're seeing a lot of activity and innovation and entrepreneurs kind of coming up in that space. So looking at Kansas City, I look at kind of some of the fintech, I look at some of the healthcare tech or digital health issues that are coming as going to be some of the drivers for us in the future.
Awesome. That's great. I mean, I know you've definitely cultivated that from the beginning. So, and people really look to you as an influencer in that space. So, what is if we just kind of look to the future and you kind of touched on it, what do you think Kansas City is going to be known for with this tech ecosystem or just even the general business just based on what the trends have been, where we started, where we're at, kind of where we're going. What do you think is going to be our rising star here?
That's a real I wish I had that crystal ball for Kansas City because it, it has so much going for it and location and that and name recognition star. I mean, you can't I mean, we have
Yeah.
the best football team. We have the best football team and by far. I mean, there's no doubt about that right now too, and I was talking to somebody the other day and says something when, Chapel Roan's playing New York, LA, and Kansas City. And so, like, to be around those names and things to say, so the World Cup, obviously, I mentioned that too. All of these things are helping showcase Kansas City to the world and getting people to think about starting businesses here, having employees here, that. And I truly believe when they come and see the quality of life that we have, the education that we have around here, and then the opportunities that are here, that Kansas City is going to continue to grow and kind of be that. I mean, the data center stuff, the Samsung plant, there's just a lot of large things that are going, but there's a lot of small entrepreneurs every day that are doing stuff as well. So that national story about
Yeah.
Kansas City is important. We need to continue though, and this is where we've done a little better, but this is really going to make or break it. I think is that continued capital density, that ability to have capital both put into our projects, put into our entrepreneur programs, to our entrepreneur support organizations, and then capital available for those businesses as well to help kind of create the next Kaufmans and Cerners and that too.
That's really exciting. But Craig, I want to thank you also for all your work. Just, I know you also volunteer your time. You're this fantastic lawyer, but you are also such an advocate for a lot of businesses. And sometimes that's all people need to hear is that they've got the chance. And so you've done a lot of that work and inspired a lot of businesses over the years.
Look, admire I absolutely admire entrepreneurs and those and anybody doing a startup or a small business because those people and particularly when I think of a tech entrepreneur too, they envision the world or our city, our place a better place. Now that may be a more entertained place or that may be a more secure place or or solving a problem that needed to be solved. The ability and willingness for those people to, the risk profile that you need to be able to do that. I'm just in awe of those folks, and I want to support them and to help them and do it because I know it's hard to be an entrepreneur and it's hard to be a small business. I mean, and
Yes.
growing your business and trying to do that. And so you deserve help and deserve support from the community and from other folks when they can. And so I love it. I love the aspects that I get to do. I love education, STEM issues, workforce development stuff. Those are all things that are kind of passionate for me for my community.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much, Craig. Thank you for joining me today and sharing all your insights. Your work reminds us that innovation isn't about just ideas, and it's really about this commitment and dedication to our business community, and that we can attract capital and thrive in Kansas City and beyond Kansas City. A lot of these businesses are global. For our viewers, you can connect with Greg at and through the KC Tech Council. If you enjoyed that episode, subscribe to Under the Brand, leave us a comment, and share this conversation with an entrepreneur or investor who's looking to scale. I'm Valerie Jennings. I'll see you next time.